What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily podcast powered by Anishar and Levine Accident Attorneys. It is signing day eve. We're going live all signing day like we always do. It's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. A lot to talk about. I'll drop an episode of The Bank here later on, give you the latest on recruiting as we head into it. And of course, we have Amon Richards on the show as always on Tuesday. Been a big week. CanesInSight rolling. We had Mario Cristobal on yesterday. That was awesome. Posted some clips here on the show. And then I got a full transcript on CanesInsight.com, which I strongly recommend you guys read through that article. He had some incredible quotes about Sark and running up to score and the SEC. It was awesome, man. He was super loose, super candid as he did his little media tour yesterday. Again, clearly trying to get the message out about why Miami deserves to be in the playoff and just, again, really relaxed and happy with his team's performance. Going to be happy with your lawyer's performance. Call Anishar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anishar and Levine. Pete, hop in here.
It's going to be a loud one today, D.
And Honey, hop in here.
Yeah.
She's fired up. She's fired up for all this playoff talk. All this has got her fired up there, Pete. But yeah, man. Big day, signing day eve. Not what it used to be. It seems like with these contracts and all this other stuff, a lot of the hay is in the barn before these kids even really start like this final stretch. It's like there's not a lot of movement, it seems, nationally.
Yeah, it's the fact that it's so early too, right? I mean, I grew up with the February, the first Wednesday of February, and have to give a shout out to my parents for always letting me, at least when I was in high school, I would always be sick on that first Wednesday of February, and it was allowed. So I give them a lot of credit there. They saw I didn't have much else going for me other than the recruiting, having some recruiting knowledge. So you might as well let them be.
Well, you still were a Knight Award finalist, winner. What was the final? The Knight Ritter. What was the final tally? Silver Knight.
I was a nominee. I was in the running, but it didn't happen for me.
You were like the Canes in the playoff race right now. Hopefully better result. You were relevant. You established relevance with the Silver Knight.
Yeah, and I was never able to take it to the next step. So hopefully Mario and staff can do that
on that tropical Park Hill there. But yeah, man, no, we're fired up and got a very special guest here today. As always, it's Tuesday, so we had to bring in the man who's will forever be linked to Malachi Toney. When they talk about Malachi Toney breaking the record, they got to say which record it was before him, and that was Amon Richards. Amon, how we doing?
Doing good, man. Hey, I tell people, man, that's a great part about legacy things, man, and in history is that some things are always together, So, hey, I had a feeling, it was a game when I saw it was 91 yards. You just look at the math, receptions, and yards over the last few games. It was over with, and I've been doing it for a little minute, I mean, the kid has been electric. He seems like he's like getting even more comfortable and better as the weeks go on, as the season gets more like grindish, and it's a little tougher. It seems like he continues to rise and get better while, most guys around the country are kind of like still a little bit stagnant or kind of veer off a little bit. So, hey, man, shout out to baby Jesus. You got me. Hey, you got me, brother.
Well, like DZ says, goat replacing a goat. It could have been a situation where, like, maybe a new coach brings in like one of these crazy passing offenses and it's some random dude that breaks the record just because of the offense and something like that. So the fact that it's this guy who we got to say he's probably the best freshman in the country, period, man. As Pete deals with his dog going wild right now. But, just talking about what you've seen with Mally down the stretch here, returning, running, throwing, catching, just how has his game evolved since he first got here?
Man, I mean, from just game one, I mean, he's still been himself, right? Like his natural ability has still been there, but you can just see like how the game is slowing down for him and how he's like truly like a man amongst boys. And I know he's the youngest one on the field, but if you took away like what you knew about his age, you would just think he's a senior or a junior in college. That's how he moves. So throughout the whole season, I mean, early on, I think he was playing a little bit slower, still like effective and stuff, but you can see like now he's starting to get more twitchier throughout like plays. Like he's actually starting to like play his style of game, almost like in high school in a way. And that's usually what happens, as you get later in the season, you've seen a lot of defenses, things are slowing down. Yes, teams are trying to game plan for you, but when you're a guy that have seen a lot of different looks and coverages, it's easier to get open and do your thing. And I think that's what we're seeing now, where he pretty much has it by his fingertips. I mean, got Carson Beck trusting in him. The offense, coordinator, Shannon Dawson, he's obviously trusting in him as well. Got him throwing passes. I mean, he's dialing up a lot of plays for him. So it's just like, I mean, this is what I think we've all wanted Miami to be for a long time, like having young impact guys who come in, and usually these type of guys end up at Ohio State or Alabama, Georgia, and then we're like kicking ourselves like, man, that's a guy we had down the street, could have had him, but I think he's one of those guys that we kept in house and we kept him home, and we're reaping the benefits of doing so.
One thing with Malachi that I really noticed you've seen it all season, but you really saw it on some of the plays on Saturday. There were more short yardage. His leg strength and his overall physical strength is underrated. I think you can tell he works hard in the weight room. You were a guy that dragged defenders. Strength was a big part of your game. Do you think strength might be underrated when it comes to playing the wide receiver position?
Yeah, 100%. I think people like thought like I was like a slender guy, and I was like on the skinnier side, but I do think just like the muscle strength you have, like my legs for me was like the strongest part of my body. Like I was squatting like way in the 400s as like a dude that weighed 180, 185. I think I was powerful. So I think when you have that like G-force and like when someone's trying to tackle you at an angle and you have that leg drive, people do underestimate it, and that's why you see a lot of missed tackles from like linebackers to like receivers or safeties, because a lot of these guys are strong in the lower body. Like think of like someone like Casey Concepcion, strong in the lower body. Malachi Toney, strong in the lower body. That's just what it is, So yeah, I think Mally, has done a great job in the weight room. But if you really look at him, which I never really thought about, because I never seen him play in high school. Like I didn't go to high school games. I seen a few clips online of him making plays on some of the like social media accounts that cover local high school football. But I didn't know he was kind of stout. Like if you really seen him on the field, like he actually got some pretty good size to him. Like he has like baby strength. Like he looks like a little man baby, So that part is underrated. And I think teams like coming in I didn't think that was there. And then we've seen it throughout the year where teams like they're trying to treat him like a freshman, even in like the blocking game. Like you see him like continuously pancake someone or like hold his block. Like that's strength. Like guys can't get off the block when he locks onto him, So huge shout out to him. Like he's obviously doing his thing in the weight room. But I think he's a bigger guy than people like realize.
Yeah, but shout out to Dan Alden saying Mally's starting to find his way into the O. Now he is the O. I mean, really definitely the focal point of the offense, and you build around him. I think part of the mission now is to find guys to take pressure off him going forward, right? Because when you have two guys that are like that, or at least a guy, guys that can threaten, it makes it a lot harder to defend Malachi Toney.
Yeah, and I think like with CJ Daniels going down, I think it allowed Mally to continue like to develop a little bit faster. And then now with CJ Daniels like coming back, and obviously tonight we got like the little selection stuff going on, so we'll see where we fall. But we get into the playoffs, like you have your veteran receiver that's coming back. That was very productive at the beginning of the year, arguably wide receiver one. He's coming back, but now you're like real wide receiver one is Malachi, and now these other guys get these one-on-one matchups. Keelan Marion is coming along. Elijah Lofton is starting to catch fire last few weeks. So now the offense really starts to open up. So it's going to be exciting to see, how you're going to play us when you have weapons all over the field, and all of them have been productive at different phases. CJ Daniels early on, Malachi Toney throughout, and then Marion has been coming along with Lofton these last few weeks. So I'm curious to see what it looks like. I think we'll be very successful. I think that's why you see the energy from the coaching staff and Mario and everyone. Like, everyone has a different smile, because I think we can all see that this thing is actually starting to hum, and it's humming, like, on both sides of the ball at the right time. Like, that's what the committee said, at the right time, best team. I think that's what we're starting to look like. So,
Pete, I know you're Pete's wrangling honey. What do you got over there? I see you.
I've been dealing with this over here. Amon, talk about Carson Beck, man. The last month of the season, really. I mean, he's been as good as Malachi has been. He's got someone throwing him the football, and I think a lot of people who had questions about Beck early in the year, middle part of the year, a lot of those questions were kind of answered here the last month.
great. I'm glad you asked that. Hey, can we get like a zoom up when you guys cut this up? Can we get like a zoom in? Can you guys come talk to me right here? Listen, I told every single person, man, when Carson Beck, after that Louisville game, I'm like, we're not turning our back. We're not going the other way. Bad game. A few of the passes should have been caught by the receivers, right? As a receiver, that's just how I see it. But the kid was productive. He was efficient. He was accurate throughout the whole season, right? Coming off the elbow injury, like, you can't ask for a better situation. And then now just take a look. Look at what he's looking like these last 4 weeks. You can say who we're playing, but he has been efficient. He's been one of the most accurate passers in college football history. And I mean, it can't get no more better than this. Defense is humming. He's dancing. He looks healthy. Like, this is why you don't turn your back on your own players. You know, as a fan base, as a whole fan base, I've seen the comments, guys getting ready to mail it in. He's not good. You know, this is what they said at Georgia. You're listening to former schools he played for, trash him. But you got to stay in the fight, man. This is a long season, like I said, you know. And to be honest, he answered all the questions. Like, when it got the lowest of the lows, we're talking about 2 losses in 3 weeks. Everyone's harping on, what did he do? He got back in the lab and got better. He didn't mail it in. He's a senior. He could have easily just checked out the season. I'm going to the draft anyway, whatever, like we see in the portal sometimes. We've seen it. He didn't do that. So I respect him. Shout out to Carson Beck. You know, you will forever be remembered in Hurricanes history. You've done a lot of great things. We're 10-2. However you want to spin it. At the end of the day, Cam Ward was 10-2. Carson Beck is 10-2. At the end of the day, who do you think is better? Whatever the case may be, but they both accomplished pretty much the same things at this point for the University of Miami. So I thank you, Carson Beck. You know, hopefully we get another run at it. You know, I think you're heating up right now. You look healthy. So thank you.
I love that feature.
We gotta get a name for that. I know with Steve, we got on Thursdays, we got story time with Steve. We need something for Amon when he just talks to the people direct, you know,
man. Because the money, like, I'm in a lot of chats, man, and I just seen like people, like, people started making all 22s of all his bad plays. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, he had a bad game, right? But if we're really critiquing, like, a lot of players could have done a lot of different things, right, to help the situation. But it didn't happen. That's just part of football, you know? Like, football isn't just a one-person blame all. Did he have a bad game? Yes. So did a lot of people. We could argue the defense gave up 2 touchdowns in like 3 minutes. But we're not going to do that, you know? So it's like, if you're going to call it a spade, just call it a spade, right? You know, so, but shout out to Carson Beck, man. He didn't ravel. You know, obviously, just coming off the Georgia stuff, you would think that, you know, once he gets in like his head, he kind of just lays down, or that's kind of the narrative. But like, I seen a guy that continued to like chop away at the wood, and now like he's reaping those benefits. He looks healthy. The offense is humming. The run game is there, right? We're running outside. Like, it's a lot of different things that we're doing a little different to help him as well. So, you know, I'm glad it all is finally like on one page. It's like, it looks connected to me. They look like they're actually having fun. So I'm excited, man. If we get in, man, I'm telling you, I think we're, like they keep saying, I think we're the most dangerous team, you know, to be in the playoffs, you know, if we were to get in.
When you say there, you mean Nick Saban.
Yeah, Nick. Hey, Nick has an eye. Like, they talk about eye tests and stuff. Like, I mean, who scouted and seen better football than Nick Saban? I don't know. Maybe he sat on my couch and told me.
Yeah, I was about to say, what do you tell you? Because I know we were all worried he was going to go and get you, and you be the next, Amari Cooper getting out of here. So what was his rap to you?
Man, look, you can come in, compete. Like, there's no guarantees. I think you're pretty much, ultra talented and you have a lot of ability, and it's just like pretty much like you want to come roll with the big boys. And it took a lot for me to look at him in his face and essentially say no. But at the end of the day, like it's Nick Saban. Like, he's like, you can't like get more like football, like eye test knowledge than really Nick Saban. He's the greatest to do it in this space. So, I mean, if he's literally looking at the table, he's not a Miami fan. Obviously, Cristobal coach underneath him at the time and stuff like that. But I truly do think he's really just calling it down the middle. As he's like been in this like media space now for a few years, I truly think he's kind of taken off like the Alabama blinders and just actually calling it even, and he knows a good team when he sees one. People saw it. First 5 weeks, everyone on earth was saying how dominant we were, how different we looked, eye test, all that different stuff. Did we slip up against 2 games? Yes, but what did we do against the actual competition? The ranked guys, the top dogs.
You got a comment from Gio Can appreciate your support, saying, "What's up with the ACC tiebreaker? Nobody in the room thought it should go head to head first, and then by ranking, this championship game is awful." I don't know how many math classes you took in Miami. I took half a semester, and then I was done with my core. I never did it again. I can't figure out this tiebreaker. Like, what are we doing out here in the ACC that we got Duke playing Virginia?
Man, I mean, it sounds like the ACC. And that's another thing. I don't know. Do we have a commissioner or something like for the ACC?
We do. I haven't seen him.
I don't even know who. I literally didn't even know we had one, because it just seems like a lot of things just go unanswered and like we don't really know what's going on. But yeah, of course, we have some weird tiebreaker where, you can be a 7-5 team and still play in a conference championship game, and they're not trying to override anything. They're sticking to the
Jim Phillips.
Yeah, Jim Phillips.
Put some respect on Jim's name.
He's got to earn it.
Hey, shout out to Jim. I'm sure he's probably a good guy, when he gets home and stuff like that. But when we talk about the ACC in this conference, like a lot of things just like make no sense. And in my opinion, like the way this could be so hilarious is literally if Duke wins and literally don't get in, we get no team in. Like, that would be the most ACC thing to do. Essentially, like, shoot yourself in the foot in a way. But we'll see. It is what it is at this point. Like, I'm sure, like, if you're looking at it from like a football set, they're just going to allow the team that, like, essentially earned it to go ahead and play in the conference championship game. I don't think they're looking at it from an aspect as like Duke has a chance to go to the Natty or anything like that. But I think they're trying to reward Duke for essentially abiding by whatever laws like we have in the conference about the tiebreakers and points and all that stuff. Like, that's what's on paper. So they're allowing Duke to, pretty much reap those benefits, which is fine. But it's just one of those things where, of course, we're like the only conference with this weird tiebreaking thing to have. I would have liked to see literally Georgia Tech or anybody else. Literally, you don't got to be us. It was like Duke. It just makes no sense. But it is what it is. I'm pretty sure they're going to be like Virginia's going to be like a 14, 17 point favorite. I almost guarantee it. I don't even look at it, but I'm sure they're going to be a heavy favorite going into it anyway. So,
yeah. So, Aman, you probably got relatives that, as they get older, they kind of get into their conspiracy theories. I don't know if it's like just, some uncle or whatever. But I know with me, my dad, he's getting older. He's getting into the conspiracy theories. He sent me a text. He said, Jim Phillips was born in Chicago, went to Northern Illinois and Northwestern, 10th kid of the family, major Catholic who goes to church every day. He will not go against the Catholic Notre Dame. So we got conspiracy theories pumping in from all over. So shout out to my dad with that investigative work.
Yeah,
right there. But I know you got relatives like that.
Yeah. I mean, you never know, man. I mean, people have narratives, they have agendas. I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta think, we're all human, right? We all have things that we want to see, we want to, spend in our, benefit. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's people like within the committee or wherever that have like certain internal biases that they can't shake, you know, because that's just kind of how I see a lot of stuff shaking out right now, is that no one's going off actual, you know, facts. They're just going off of previous stuff, how they thought Miami was back in the day, gold teeth, you know, dreadhead guys running around. I just think that's just kind of how a lot of these people who are making decisions see the University of Miami, like they still living off past years. Kind of like if someone was like racist and they're like, don't like a black person because of, you know, something back in the day, and they're like still believe like, you know, a black person is like that to this day, or, you know, something along those lines. Like that's kind of how I feel like the like narrative or how they see a certain like team or logo or person is like it won't change because of like previous things.
Yes,
I think more than anything with the ACC and Jim Phillips, we got to remember too, like, yeah, we're seeing the graphics being tweeted in Miami's favor and all that, but the ACC has bent the knee to Notre Dame and given them whatever they wanted. They put them in the basketball conference, and you can get the benefits of being in a conference in basketball there because you need it in basketball, but because in football you don't. So let's also not act like he isn't playing some sort of favorite to Notre Dame for letting them do what they do. And I know he's not the one who put that deal in place with Notre Dame, but at the end of the day, it's not a very fair. The ACC also is benefiting, I'm sure, from being closely associated with them, and I don't think they want to. They're already pissing Notre Dame off by tweeting stuff out. That's not. So I'm sure Jim Phillips also has to be very careful with that relationship. If we really want to talk about conspiracies, I think that's more about. I think there's a lot more tied in there than people realize with the ACC.
So essentially, so Pete, I got a question. So you think so essentially every single year Notre Dame is pretty much have a at large, because they can't win a conference essentially. So they're pretty much always going to be like an at large.
If they get 10 wins, they're going to be in the mix unless these rules change. That's just what it's going to be. And
that's my thing. Like at large to me was like teams who didn't make it into the conference championship because there's only 2 teams, but they're still good enough to be one. Like they could be in the game, but they're not. So they fall into that at large spot. But Notre Dame doesn't even have a conference, so they naturally automatically are an at large bid no matter what, because they can't win a conference. Like they have no chance of being, a conference champion because they're literally just, playing bottom feeders out of the Big Ten and ACC. And it's like, is that like the meta? Like, is that what it is? That where this thing is headed? Because I heard something where I saw Utah was like thinking about going like independent or something. So I don't know, but
yeah, all they really did, if you look at Notre Dame, was they beat a 3-loss USC team, and then really losing teams the rest of the way. That's all they had to do. They didn't have to win the games that you thought had to win. All they had to do was beat some of the worst teams in college football, and then a 3-loss USC team in their end.
Can I ask you a question for both of you guys? And this is just like, if roles were reversed, right? University of Miami lost.
I think our boy Kyle asked this question earlier in the chat.
Okay. I didn't
see if I can pull it. No. But go on. But we didn't answer it.
Okay.
So
okay. Yeah. If you when you really think about it, if we lost, to 2 playoff caliber teams, right? Only beat a 3-loss ranked team, we would not be ranked 9. And beat a bunch
even this question here, which is what Kyle says is, hey, I need all 3 of your opinions. If Miami and Notre Dame switch resumes, Notre Dame won head-to-head, who would be ranked higher?
Yeah, same thing. Like they would, if Notre Dame beat us, they would literally be saying all the other metrics don't matter. At the end of the day, you guys played on the field this year and you lost. That's the deal breaker. But because we actually won and they had us not favored to win the game, here we are. And then they definitely did not think we're going to win the last 4 games by the margins we did. I promise you, if I could look into the room that they were, I 100% sure that they were literally saying Miami's going to drop one of the next 4 games, or they're not going to win by the margins, same margins or more. They're not.
Well, and you know what I think also probably helps Notre Dame that we don't talk enough about, even though it's a completely different team, is they get into the playoffs last year and they make the run they did. Like the same way that they didn't believe Miami would finish the season out strong here.
Yeah.
They probably in the back of their mind are like, man, we believe in Marcus Freeman just took this program to the championship last year. We saw it happen. So we feel like that's a more proven thing. And again, that's not how it should be because it's a completely different team. But I think all of these things creep into the mind of the committee. They've seen Notre Dame. They saw Notre Dame get there last year. It's a recent thing. I think that, again, there's a lot of certain factors that we don't really realize are in the back of people's minds, and I think that is that's one of them.
Yeah, that's why I think these people, like, I don't know if they're paid to be on the committee. I don't know if it's like their full-time job. I think there are some of them are ADs and stuff. Maybe it's like a side gig for them, and they don't like understand like how like big this is for like these universities individually with these decisions that they seem to just go in there and just kind of throw off the walls and just come up with excuses based on logos. But I guess we'll find out tonight, obviously, and then obviously the final selection is, you know, a few weeks from now. But it is crazy, man. I don't even know how to feel because like part of me wants to be like upset, but part of me like thinks like we've done way more than enough. We've done everything they asked for since the SMU game and more. And it's like, what more excuses can you come up with? But then part of me is like, watch them do it. Watch them still say it isn't good enough because they have essentially the right or the ability to say so. They can just continue extending the goalpost every time we get right there in front of it. You know, it's crazy.
D, a couple things. I see what you just sent me, D. I'm scared to play that because it's ESPN.
Oh, it is?
Footage.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
it's from ESPN broadcast. But I do have something I wanted to bring up too, because we're very focused on Notre Dame as obviously there's good reason to be. But one scenario I keep seeing people bring up is Ole Miss shouldn't get in because they don't have a coach. And they're saying, well, they set the precedent with FSU. They didn't have Travis. I think it's a bit apples to oranges. If they had 2 losses, then yes, I think it's definitely a thing. I just don't know that like you can really punish a team for that. It's not, to me, it's not the same thing because they aren't on the same, they don't have the same record. They're like ahead already. Now, the scenario that is interesting to me is BYU. If Kalani Sitake, their head coach, takes the Penn State job and they get throttled again here by Texas Tech, that's a different scenario to me.
Yeah.
Because it's for number one, it's recent, it's tough luck. You get to your conference championship, but like 11-1 in the SEC is different than 11-1 against the schedule BYU played and got boat raced by Texas Tech already once this year. If you see them come out and get boat raced again, and then the news comes out that he's leaving, to me, that's one that is a scenario that I could see Miami jumping.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I agree. I think with BYU, to be honest, in tonight's like stuff, I do think we're gonna end up jumping BYU. In a perfect world, like if they actually did what was right, Miami should be like 8 or 9. Notre Dame should be right behind Miami. Alabama should be behind Notre Dame.
Yep.
And then if Alabama were to win the SEC championship, then they earn the right to actually be within the playoffs. If they lose, like they're on like that cusp where you win, you're in, you lose, you're done. Like you shouldn't be able to go and lose your conference after already having 2 L's. Now you have 3 L's and then get right back into the big boy pot and then you go play Georgia again.
Yeah. Like
you're going to play Georgia 3 times essentially. And you got, you know what I'm saying? So I think that and BYU should be on the outside looking in. And if they win their conference, if they pull off the upsets, like what teams like or people have them favored to not do, if they do it, then you deserve to be in. Like you earned your right. You know, you go out, beat Texas Tech, you go out, beat Georgia, then you should be in. But if you lose those games, you should be out. Like I don't see why we're treating the conference championship game as like a preseason game. Like, oh, there's no implications. Like, nah, like you want to win your conference so bad, you want to play in the game. Like there should be a positive outcome and then a negative one. You get there and get your ass whooped, you shouldn't be in. You know, that's how I see it. And then therefore, if those teams, Alabama and BYU, proves to not be worthy, then your Notre Dame and Miami's in the, like you have them ranked appropriately. So, you know, those 2 other teams on the outside, like they get left out. Then you got your G5 team come in and, you know, ACC champ, and then we call it a day. But how they're going to do it, I'm sure they're not going to do it that way. But I do think we're jumping BYU and possibly Alabama. You know, I don't think they look very impressive playing against like a second string quarterback. I know they're going to say Iron Bowl, but at the end of the day, like, I mean, if Auburn did have any post at quarterback, they'd probably win that game, if we're going to be honest. But we'll see how they, like I said, the eye tests, like their measuring sticks, I feel like it goes away for certain teams. Like Oklahoma, to me, did not pass an eye test. Alabama did not pass an eye test. BYU damn sure didn't pass the eye test. They were down 14-0 to UCF, and they were at home. Like, so, but that doesn't matter. The eye test only gets brought up, for Miami when you lose. So, but we'll see.
Could not agree more. So, Pete, thank you for catching that about the Sarkeesian quote. So I'll just bring up the quote itself because I want to get your thoughts on this quote from Sark. And then Mario, I talked to him yesterday, full transcripts available on CanesInSight, and he responded directly. I want to get to these comments and see your thoughts. So Sarkeesian of 3-loss Texas was, making his case. And he said, is it about beating good teams, blah, 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 or is it don't play good teams? I guess he missed the Notre Dame game. Put up a bunch of yards, put up a bunch of points and make it look good. Throw fade route touchdowns with 38 seconds to go when you're ahead 31-7 so that the score looks better. So is the committee really watching the games? They're just looking at the stat sheet at the end of the game to say, oh, well, they won by this many points. They must have played really good. So Mario responded to that. I asked him about it directly, and I'm going to pull up his response because I thought he handled it very well. Took multiple, I'll say shots, but I'll treat them as shots. So basically, I kind of asked the question. It was a leading question about Sarkeesian and how his team couldn't block Florida. And here's what he said. He goes, I heard that reference earlier today, but I get it. Everybody's trying to posture themselves for their programs, and I get it. But there's the fact of a common opponent between us and that particular coach, meaning Texas playing Florida. We had the opportunity to really dominate that opponent while that opponent dominated them. So that's pretty easily put to bed. Basically just kind of disregarding it like you don't even talk. Then he also explained, which he said, we were up 31-7, and then they call a timeout, and he goes, it's not my job to stop our offense. It's not my job. Carson had thrown a pick. CJ's coming back from injury. They want to get better going forward. So we called the play. It was a great play. He goes, so that's what we did. We played Miami Hurricane football, and that's that. One more quote before I get to your response, Amon, because he took another shot at Sarkeesian. And I asked him about ACC and SEC battles, and he said, Louisville really dominated Kentucky this week. Pretty sure Texas played an overtime game against them. Or was it Mississippi State? I think it was both, actually. So a lot of
I like this. Hey, man, I like the petty Mario, man. Come on, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, like we talking the facts, though. Like, I mean, anyone watching those games, like, they were in dogfights, man. It took a miracle. It literally took them a punt return last minute for them to beat Mississippi State. I mean, Kentucky, like, they're in a dogfight with, and we just saw Louisville boat race them. Those are all facts. You get what I'm saying? So, I mean, look, Sarkeesian, I'm sure, like, Mario said, he's trying to prop up his team. They're saying and doing anything, right, to possibly get people on their side to get a hopefully at-large spot to move up 5 spots, right? I get it. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, he's right. We have a common opponent, right? Florida went up there and scored. I mean, they went to Florida. Florida hung 29 on them. Florida scored once against us. Like, it's just that right there just kind of ends that whole possibility of them possibly even jumping us or getting in, because we do have those common opponents. Same thing with Alabama. They got boat race versus FSU, and we physically impose our will against FSU, which is, by the way, an arch rival, right? I mean, so hey, I like what we're doing. I do think, like, I like when you see our coach like speak up and like actually kind of, not saying he hasn't, that's not what I'm saying, but I like this, how we're trying to kill the narratives, because sometimes you let a narrative go long enough and you don't speak up, it becomes true, and that's just what it is. So I like that we're kind of dropping like the actual facts and data to back up what we're saying, because we're not just sitting here saying, oh, like, we want credit for the Notre Dame, win or whatever. Like, no, we've shown you that we not only have that head-to-head, we've also have beaten common opponents to whatever team you want to put us against that's within our 2-10 like margins. We have common opponents. We've played opponents. Like, you can pull up the data, and you can just not go off of, oh, I just think Notre Dame or whatever team's just better. Like, I just think they're better. Like, but they haven't proved that. They haven't beat us head up. They haven't beat common opponents by more. what more data do you want to look at besides just saying, oh, this is just what I feel? You know,
Yeah.
It's Adam Levine.
Yeah, he also, Mario talked about the FSU Alabama game too, which that doesn't even exist, which is that FSU just completely boat raced Alabama. Pete, I was going to ask you, what you think, because the SEC glut, and we'll get a Moz thoughts. Like, who do you think should be left out of this SEC glut? I mean, do you think 5 SEC teams, forgetting the Miami Notre Dame question, you think 5 SEC teams?
I mean, I don't think that's a lot of teams. I think they're all really good teams, though. I don't like, that's my thing, is that I believe Vanderbilt's a good team, for example. That's what I was talking about. And this is what I said yesterday, is that it's not the same Alabama and Georgia at the top, or LSU, right? Give them a few years, they might be there. But the depth of the conference is good, man.
Oh no, it's the best conference.
There's a couple bad teams at the bottom here. I think it's a darn good conference still. I have a tough time saying that again, people take me giving compliments to these other conferences as saying, "Oh, Miami shouldn't be in." That's not what I'm saying. I think Miami should be in. Under the way that it works, I have a tough time seeing a path that it happens right now, because they haven't had enough help, in my opinion, as I've said. Really hope it happens, but the SEC is a good. It's to me, it's still a really good conference. D. I don't think you look at any of those teams. You can say that you feel like Miami's better than them, but I don't think you look at any of those and say Miami's gonna definitely win that game. I think all of those teams have a really good shot. I think it's a 50-50 game with pretty much any of those teams.
I think it's the best conference as far as the depth. I think the top's fallen off a lot. And I would say, if you look at last year, only 3 SEC teams got in, so not 5. And of those teams, Texas, they beat Clemson. It was competitive, but they won. They really should have lost to Arizona State a million times, and then they lost the next game. Tennessee, not even close against Ohio State. And who was the third team? Georgia lost to Notre Dame right away. So the SEC, the 3 teams they went in did nothing. They were yelling for Alabama to make the playoff, and then Alabama goes and loses to a Michigan team, even though Alabama played all their players. So, I just think the SEC lately is the best conference because of their depth, but I don't think it's a conference that has 5 teams that are worthy of being in the playoff, because any one of those teams, yes, they could beat any team. They can also lose to any team because they're just very weak in certain areas.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean,
look, go ahead.
I think SEC obviously has like good talent. Like, they have some pretty good teams. Big Ten, I think, is a little lighter. I think those guys are at the top are pretty solid, and they got some pretty trash, in the bottom. So, I'm not entirely mad. I just don't. I just feel like when they compare like the 10-2 team pools or whatever, like, I feel like some of these SEC teams are getting lean because of like these like opponents they played that are like ranked for really no reason, like Missouri and some of these like
Tennessee
lighter teams. Got Tennessee, like some of these teams are just ranked just off the strength of logo and prestige versus like, if we're calling a spade more so.
I think Oklahoma, for example, is a team that's like not as they're a good team. But their resume is like the teams they've beaten, like you said, is not. It's inflated, but this is the issue. This is the issue, though, guys, and this is the whole problem with the committee, and why it's hard for me to put energy into trying to decipher this stuff. What matters? Is it when they were ranked, when they beat them? Is it what they're ranked now? Because I've heard them say both things.
Yes.
If you look at Oklahoma's schedule, when those teams were ranked, they beat a lot of good ranked teams at the time.
Yeah.
Now, what does it look or I have a very tough time deciphering what matters and what doesn't. Like, there's no consistency with any of this stuff. So,
yeah,
I think Miami could beat any of these teams, but also Oklahoma could beat Miami. That defense is nasty. That defense is nasty. Like, maybe you guys disagree, but
no, that's
not like a for sure win for Miami, like some people are making it, like some Canes fans have made it seem.
But they remind me of like what people thought Notre Dame would be like coming into the game one, how they figured like pretty much, defense, like offensively we won't be able to do much, and I think we do got enough weapons where if you have a defense out there long enough, and we saw it with the LSU game, like if a team is a defense out there long enough, you're going to give up points at some point. No matter, you know what I'm saying? Like you could be the 98 Bear, whatever Bears team people bring up. Whatever, I don't even know.
85 Bears,
right?
man.
85 Bears, but if they're out there long enough, like you're eventually going to, like you're human, you're eventually going to give up something. So I think that's where I'm looking at Oklahoma and I'm looking at the eye test and what they used against us last year, where we had a great offense, number one offense, and no defense. Like they have an elite defense, but no offense. They don't have a pulse. And their quarterback is literally like half whatever. So it's like, is that failing the eye test? Or you're going to say that they got those, like they got those like key victories by small margins, but a win is a win. You know what I'm saying? But then they turn around and like don't want to give us credit for like our good wins. You get what I'm saying? They only bring up our bad losses.
Well, and like the Michigan is a win for Oklahoma, but that was Bryce Underwood's second start. You know, it was a road game. Michigan's way better now than they were at that time, I would say. I mean, you could, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you could probably make that same argument. I know we're not supposed to say that out loud on the show, but you know, that was CJ Carr's first start. So I think it's just like, what do they choose to make? What do they want to choose as something that matters and as it doesn't? And at the end of the day, it just seems like they pick and choose what they want to make it fit the narrative that they've decided already in their head.
And that's a problem I have, because I think a lot of other, like, you know, media guys have said it. Like, I feel like there's no real like black and white, like clear direction, and like it's consistent. Like I feel like it's a lot of human like bias where they want their argument to be correct, so they move the goalposts for different arguments based on the teams they're trying to critique. Like Miami is under a different criteria versus Oklahoma. Then you have BYU, they're under a different one. Like it's all like changing based on what team is presented in front of them. Like, and I just think it should be like 5 different reasonings, and you just go off the 5 different reasonings, and that's your answer. Like that's black and white, not, you know what I'm saying? Like not, oh, like Miami lost, bro. We lost, you know, we lost these games last month. Like people keep bringing it up as if it just like took place 2 weeks ago. Like there's been 4 football games since the last loss. So it's like, when, like, is there like a cutoff? Like, when does it not matter? When can you say we have improved and been consistent? Like, how many games do you have to win to be consistent? Because I can tell you Oklahoma has won 4 straight. They give them credit for that.
And they lost around the same time of year. I mean, they lost 2 and 3 weeks, just like Miami. I think the only difference is your losses, if you're Oklahoma, were to Texas, who at that time was, you know, still highly ranked, and then Ole Miss. So the problem is Miami getting knocked down, I think, so far at the time compared to what Oklahoma did.
Pete, I'm looking at it right now. Georgia has been on an 8-game win streak. Notre Dame is on 10. Pretty much everybody else is literally at 5 and 4, like wins in a row. Like I'm talking about within the top 12. Obviously, the teams at the top, like Indiana is obviously 12 weeks. Ohio State 12 days, obviously undefeated. But every other team is essentially like has dropped a game around the same time and has been consistently winning since the last L. But somehow, like, we're the only team that the L keeps brought up, like, to like hurt our like conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is that? Oh, it's Miami. It's the narrative of they're going to be the same old Miami. And then when we didn't do it, like now they like are confused and they have to sit there and come up. Now, I promise you, I'm really curious to see what excuse they come up with now.
Yeah, they'll be on the hot seat. So the good news is we gave them a lot more to have to talk about and answer to. Over 1,300 on. Pete had a great idea here this morning, which is, you know, I want to talk a little recruiting. Got sign day tomorrow, so I want you to talk about some of these recruits, and he'll get the videos ready now that Miami's bringing in at the receiver position, because I
have them all loaded up.
Yeah, there's a really, really strong receiver class. So we'll break down some of those guys, because I think that really is probably the strength of this class, along with offensive line. Before we do, wanted to shout out our friends at KashKick, KashKick. Give your free time a raise. If you're gaming, browsing, doing surveys, just wasting time on your phone, why not get paid to do it? And that's KashKick, KashKick. one of the biggest apps in the App Store, 4.5 plus average rating, 1.5 million plus downloads. So download the app, it goes right to your PayPal. You're playing games, you're having fun, you're doing stuff you do anyways just to kill the time, but now your free time gets you money, and that money goes into your PayPal. So download the KashKick app, KashKick, compete, play games, have fun, make some money on the side, give your free time a raise with KashKick. All right, so Pete's got some honey issues there.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, come on. So, this class from Miami, top 10, a lot of really good players, a lot of players in general. I think we're at 29, 2 more players potentially in the mix. We'll talk about that here in a minute, some of the guys that the Miami might add. But I wanted to focus on the wide receiver position with you, Aman, because you heard 247 CBS Sports was talking about it yesterday, saying that the strength from the national perspective of Miami's class is wide receiver. We got a lot of different guys who, based on what I understand, they're being brought in to play early, just like these 3 freshman receivers play early, and really get a youth movement going in this wide receiver room. You know how the portal works. They'll be moving in and out. Guys are graduating. You lose Daniels. You lose Keelan Murray and Tony Johnson. The older guys go. So a lot of movement going on, and these young guys are going to be expected to play. And I wanted to start to get your thoughts on Samorian Wingo. This is a guy I talked to Miami yesterday, and they told me they think he has the best senior film of anybody in the country from St. Augustine. Right now, he is the number 59 player overall in the country in the composite, number 7 wide receiver in the country, number 4 player in Florida. So he's a big-time dude that just keeps rising the rankings. What do you see when you watch his film?
Man, watching the film, so it's funny. When I first saw his film, I think it was last year or maybe before the season, I was watching his junior film. And I thought it was, it was cool, made some good plays, but I didn't think it was all world, to be honest. I think around that time, I think he was like a Florida lean. I didn't really think much of it, but watching the senior film, like you can definitely see the improvement to like his body, his routes. Run after the catch was the first thing that jumped off the screen. He's been very consistent as well. Seemed like he put on some size and gotten like better shape or game shape. I think he's a guy that can be a dude for us. Watching the film, he reminds me. I called him when I first saw him. I said, "This is looks like baby CeeDee Lamb," and I'm going to stand by that, man. I feel like my evals have been very, very good over the last few years, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with that, calling him baby CeeDee Lamb. I think he's a guy, as we see on the film. He's inside out in the slot. He's outside, right after the catch, great hands, physical. I think he can do it all. So, shout out to the staff for, obviously getting him to not go to UF and all that type of stuff. And I think he'll be a good player for us. And I think the ranking boost we've seen from the different websites have kind of confirmed that he's a guy that's like rising. He's improved a lot. And usually that's a good sign going into, whatever, he's going to Miami, obviously, but that's usually a good sign. I think, senior year tape is a big, big thing that I think a lot of schools fail to look at, right? Is that guy improving, right? Because if you can't improve from your junior, senior, how can you improve from senior to your freshman year in college? So I think that's something that people really didn't think about. And I think that's something we figured out, and we've kind of attacked it and used it as our evaluation process essentially. So it'll work out.
If you're gonna be investing in these guys, their recent product better be good. That's the nature of what it is now.
Man, you can't have a highlight tape, from sophomore year and your senior year, you're 3 touchdowns for 700 yards and thinking that's something good, because that kind of, to me, it's like a sample size for a team to look at what your college career should look like, right? Freshman year of high school, it should look a certain way. Sophomore year, you should have some, production. Junior year should be very productive. In your senior, it should continuously increase. But if you're up and down that's usually, to me, not a good sign.
I'm not looking at this from a technical perspective, obviously, because I never played the wide receiver position, but just kind of when you really look back at wide receivers that succeed and don't, you see common trends. Basketball players, which Wingo's a really nice basketball player. That's a big indicator. Production, obviously guys that are consistently catching the ball, even at the high school level, finding a way, no matter who their quarterback is, and then that core strength. with Wingo, one thing I noticed, I wanted to ask you about him on, because this is more on the technical side, is he seems to have the ability to catch the ball. Like, let's say it's like a slant or something. He's catching the ball with his hands, not gearing down or slowing down at all, and able to keep his movement and almost speed up when he's catching it on the run. What is it about certain receivers, and how important is it just to be able to catch the ball smooth on the run and not gear down or struggle to cradle it in, be able to pick up speed and run after the catch?
I mean, it's actually very hard. I think my screen is jacked up. I think
yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah, no, I think it's very hard. It's very impressive, to continue moving your feet and staying in stride, using all hands, while making a catch. A lot of guys, like, if you just watch, I mean, any receiver from NFL to high school, like, a lot of times you make like that catch and your feet kind of like naturally kind of stop, and you end up falling or tripping or stumbling or whatever the case may be. But yeah, no, he's very smooth. Like, to me, that tells me he's very confident in his hands. Like, he has no second thoughts about any of it, and he's running through the catch. And to be honest, like, running through the catch, like, that's how you get a lot of yak, man. Like, you don't stop at all. So I like it. I like it a lot.
Yes, the old Jay Rice. So I'm gonna kick you out and bring you back in so your screen gets fixed. Pete, pull up if you can the next receiver on the list, which is going to be Milan Paris. So Milan Paris. This is talking about senior risers. This is a big one here. Who was a commit to Iowa State, is now obviously the Miami Hurricane commit, number 16 wide receiver in the country. You're talking about from Akron, Ohio area, Walsh Jesuits, 6'6", 205, verified 4.4, some of the best verified measurables in the country. He's 64th overall player on 247, so they like what he can do as we talk about Milan Paris here. But size, speed, another basketball guy, another big senior guy, different kind of body type here. I'm with Milan Paris at that 6'5", but it seems like he's got some juice at that size.
I mean, I think he's 6'5", like running like a 4.4 or something. I heard. I mean, that's like the stuff you can't teach. That's why a guy like Calvin Russell, for example, is like that 5-star, was a 5-star guy. Because those are the measurables are there, and I think the tape is there as well. And to be honest, if we're gonna be honest with Iowa State, like, they have done a pretty good job at evaluating receivers over the last few years. I don't know what goes into it, but hey, I'm not mad at it. Watching the tape, he's a fluid athlete. He doesn't play like he's like and when I say he doesn't play like he's a 6'5" guy, I don't mean like in a bad way. Like, he plays like he's really like 6'1" as far as like his movements. Like, he doesn't look slow. He doesn't look like stiff.
Yeah.
Well, that's the answer then. Because he looks very fluid. Natural hands. I mean, like I said, I trust the staff when it comes to these evals, because if I'm going off last year's class being like ranked 12 or 15, whatever it was, and the hit rate with that class is actually crazy. So hey, whatever they're doing is starting to work. But yeah, I think Milan Paris is going to be a guy.
Yeah, he people talk about. Yeah, I'm getting some comments that's lagging. I don't know why. They're
talking about the Wi-Fi.
Looks good to me, man.
Yeah, this happened yesterday. I don't know what this is. We'll look into this issue because on our end it looks perfect and we're catching it perfect. So, maybe pull up the video for a second there, people. We talk about Milan Paris. See if that helps. But a lot of times people talk about building your receiving core like a basketball team, not necessarily basketball players, but having the power forward body, right? The bigger guy, then you have the smaller, quicker guy, and not having everybody kind of the same. So what do you see as far as like putting together a wide receiver core? Do you agree with that idea that you want big guys, you want small guys, you want fast guys?
Yeah,
like you want
I
to kind of
feel
mix
like
it up?
The last few years we had a lot of smaller receivers. Like, I think last year Isaiah Horton was the tallest one at like 6'4", and he was pretty much the only one. So yeah, I think it's important, man, to have those 6'5", 6'4" guys. A few of them. Then you have your smaller guys. You have your speed guys. You have different body types and skill sets, and that allows you to do a lot of different things within your offense.
So Milan Paris, one guy to keep an eye on. Another one that's talking about different body types. Vance Spafford from Orange County, California. It's amazing getting him to come all the way over here with USC having that big class. Somebody who was super productive as a sophomore and junior. He got hurt as a senior. Nothing terrible as far as like his future career, but he missed time.
Mhm.
Maybe that kind of caused his stock to drop a little bit. Still a 4-star, but ran a 4.35 laser. Quick dude. What do you see with him?
Speed, man. Speed. I mean, geez, that, like I said, there's some things you just can't coach, man. Like you can't teach. You can teach the fundamentals of technique, right? But a guy running a 4.3 laser out of high school is like, like that's like unreal. I'm not gonna lie. Like I don't know how many dudes come out really running a 4.3. I'm talking about laser, not hand time. I'm talking about laser time. That's a whole nother ballgame. Like that's legit. So I mean, I'm excited to see him. I think we can do some pretty creative things if he's a slot receiver. Which I think he'll be playing in the slot a little bit, maybe some Z. I mean, hey, that's a weapon. That's someone that can take the top off. You can do a lot of different things. Defenses got to always account for that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think we're loading up the talent with different type of abilities. Like it's like you play Madden or it's like Madden has all these different abilities, right? And you try to, you got a guy that's more of your pure hands, then you got your guys like Tyreek Hill, who are just your fast guys with those abilities. I think that's where we're headed, and I think it's great.
Yeah, and then Tyron Evans, you haven't heard a lot about him. He got hurt, but big, fast guy. I think with that they're trying to bet on the future there because it seems like with some of these tall, fast guys, just in general, tall guys, sometimes they stay the same, and sometimes they really kind of develop in college and just as they get older. You're a taller guy. You were pretty far ahead. You were a highly recruited player in high school. But have you seen that where sometimes these taller guys, they just get more comfortable in their body, their route running and all that other stuff?
Say that one more. I didn't catch that last part.
Yeah, just some of these tall guys. Like this guy's 6'5", Tyron Evans from Charlotte. Have you seen that before with some of these taller guys? It takes them a while to come into their route running, and that's kind of on the back end?
Yeah, for sure. Like when I think of some tall guys I played with, like Daryl Langham was a big guy. Cager was kind of on the bigger end of things. So that some of those guys just take a little bit longer to develop, especially in the college level where you kind of be like to really, I'm not gonna say be successful, but a lot of the guys who are like more of your like explosive, quick, twitchy guys. So it is a big development process. It may take a few years for a guy like that to really come into his own. I would think a guy like Isaiah Horton, I think the one thing people used to talk about was that he was like the slowest receiver. I guess it was like an internal joke the guys had on the team. He was like the slowest receiver on the team, and he continued developing and working and just putting a lot of work. And now you see him like he looks pretty explosive, plays big.
That's that Bama. That's that Bama right there.
Be great.
SEC Pete. Oh, man. D Money was calling that. D Money said it all last, like not this spring that just passed, two springs ago.
Yeah.
The jump that he had taken in terms of his physical, like his body and the speed.
Yeah, it has to be the right situation because the way we're recruiting, like it's like, can a guy come in and really develop for 3 years and still have a chance? Because if you're consistently recruiting 4 and 5 star guys that can come in and play right away, when that guy is finally ready in year 3, will he be ready? Oh, hold on. Wait, can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're clear.
Man, someone started calling me.
No worries. Someone's saying Daryl Langham, bless his 4.9 speed in miraculous hands. Yeah, Daryl Langham, a Miami legend, man. It's amazing. Just a few games, and now forever he's going to be known. So shout out to him, man. That's awesome. But go ahead. You were rolling.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. I just think some of those bigger body guys just takes a while to develop. Sometimes a guy may pop a little earlier than others, but who knows? In year 3, when you got 3 recruiting classes of other 6'5", 6'4" guys who are maybe a little bit more ready or game ready, will that kid still be here in today's day and age with a portal? So I don't know how they're going to play with the Tyreek Evans guy. I mean, if he's in the class, like I think that's a guy that can develop and be something, but will he stick? I don't know. I guess, we'll see. I think we've done a pretty good job though overall, just kind of recruiting that position, getting them both. I think we got a lot of young guys that show some potential this year. Got some another round of guys coming this next year, you know, and then if we hit the portal,
I mean, the portal guys were all good takes.
Yeah. So it's like, do you like go and grab another one or two guys, like those older vet guys, to add into the room again, mix in? Do you roll that way? I think we do, in my opinion. I think we go grab at least one, you know, maybe two guys. Because I think people don't you need the depth. And I'm just anticipating guys hitting the portal on our team. Like, I'm sure there are going to be guys that leave, go elsewhere, but you got to have the depth, man. You got to have like 8 to 10 guys that can like be ready, because as we're seeing, like, it's a long season. You get into the playoffs, that's an extra, like, 4 games right there, you know?
Hey, well, listen, appreciate you, Aman. Hopefully next time we get you on, we're talking about a playoff run. We'll see. We should know by then. But as always, man, appreciate you joining us, the most requested. And there'll be, as long as we're talking about Malachi Toney and everything he did in Miami, you got to talk about the man himself, Ahmad Richards.
It's true. Honestly, I was out and about yesterday evening, and I was eating dinner, and someone, shout out to my boy Jason at Grape Ape, said, "Man, my favorite guest is Amon Richards. He's the man." So it's a true story, man. I guess stopped in public with people telling me that they love your segment. So
yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. I like I said, I like the love, man. It's one of those things where I think Miami, like, we're finally getting those talented guys where we can even have these discussions, right? You don't have to wait 31 years for someone like me to come in, and you don't got to wait 9 years. Right now, you can have these talented young guys come in and be productive out the gate. Like, that's what made Miami great, having like these very good players scattered throughout the roster, you know.
Shout out to Miss Toney. There's the reason right there that you're not the record holder anymore. Shout out to Miss Toney.
Yeah, could you imagine if we would have had to wait until tomorrow for Malachi to sign with the Canes before he reclassified?
Wow. It's true.
Hey.
Imagine that one, boys.
That's crazy. Hey,
that reclass saved our season. Holy moly.
Yeah, I gotta say, would we be 10-2? Oh, because of it? Who? Crazy to think, right? Like, man. But we here, man. It's exciting, man. I just hope the whole world wants to see this offense and defense like in the playoffs, man. I just hope these people get it right, and they just leave their natural biases from when they were 10 years old. I hope they just leave it at home, and they just look at what's on film and look at the numbers and make the right decision. Because like they said, they don't want to see the Miami Hurricanes in the college football playoffs. Most dangerous team.
There it is, baby. Saban said it. Now Ahmad said it. Appreciate you, man. We'll have you on next week talking about it.
Appreciate it, man. All love, man. Go Canes.
All right, that's always awesome. By the way, let us know in the chat how we're coming out here, because the choppiness, that's a new issue that happened yesterday. Pretty bad, poorly timed. Unfortunately, while we were talking to Mario, had to chop up that interview and kind of like splice it a little bit. But yeah, that's a new thing. We got to figure this one out. Let us know in the comments how it sounds. I just want to make sure we're all locked and loaded, because we're going to be on tomorrow.
Trying to figure out if it was just when you were talking or when all of us were talking, because if it was just you, then maybe it's something internet wise. Maybe it's a StreamYard thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it shouldn't be internet. I mean, I'm plugged in direct. Well, we'll figure this out later. We'll not figure this out in the show. Just they're saying it's good right now, so we'll workshop it. We got a big show tomorrow. We're gonna be going on 9 to 4, I think, something like that. It'll be a long time. Talking.
We got Karsten Bush is at 3. Is he on? He's in where, Kentucky?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if they're an hour behind us, but it's 3 o'clock. So that might be, if it's at 4 o'clock our time, then might have to go a little bit longer than that.
Yeah. We'll keep it rolling. We got to holler at Patrick, man. We got to get those subs set up. That's the only reason we made it through last year. Yeah. Shout out to Patrick and the whole team. Real quick, I'm going to get to the bank here and talk recruiting. Maybe we'll combine bank work. I don't know what we'll call it. But I want to get your thoughts as well. Before I do, I want to shout out a couple of the people that make this all possible, including UHealth Sports. Like, if you're an athlete, weekend warrior, just an active person, you know how hard it is to sit on the injured list with pain or injury. Maybe you even try to hack your own rehab, get back earlier. But if compromising your movement or performance is not an option, call the experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. Whether it's elite competition with Miami Hurricanes athletics or just everyday movement, the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute is the trusted choice for those who demand excellence. Set an appointment today at uhealthsports.com. And always got to shout out our man, the ORCHID man. That's OrchidMan Florida. If you need landscaping at your property, your business, you want to look the part, talk to OrchidMan Florida, the landscape artisans from Palm Beach all the way down to the Keys, 786-271-0332. They will take care of you and make your landscape maintenance easy. They'll be your quarterback for the whole process, maintaining, tree stump grinding, fertilizing, all that hurricane prep, all the dirty work. They will take care of it and coordinate it and make it easy. That is OrchidMan Florida, ORCHID manflorida.com. All right, Pete. So, big day tomorrow here. It's going to be hopefully not dramatic. That's the hope, is that it was not a dramatic situation. But
it might be traumatic, but hopefully not dramatic.
You know what? Last year, man, we were talking going into this game, like, how are we going to go live for all this time? We had just lost to Syracuse. The class was kind of nondescript. Thank God that Kellen Wiley came in unexpectedly and made it at least a little bit exciting on signing day. But I think this signing day, maybe not going to be exciting as far as like, you don't know what's going to happen, but in terms of just getting good players in, should be a good one, Pete. But, and I'll start with you, what you're hearing before I get into some of the stuff I'm hearing as far as like what is really going to happen, like what's left to be done between now as we record this on Tuesday, 10 a.m., and then signing day tomorrow.
At Karsten Busch, obviously, I mean, that's one that I think they feel really good about. I gotta say, when it comes to these visits, man, I really like what I see in terms of, I wouldn't call it a policy because obviously you've got to get a kid down here to get him to commit but the vibe I get on a lot of these players who committed to Miami late here or late flips is like, if you're coming down for a visit, you better be coming down because you have some serious interest about Miami. This is not a free trip. This is not obviously, again, you have to get the kid down here to see how they really feel in the environment and all that. But like, the guys coming down here, I feel good about Miami's chances of landing them for the most part with these official visits that they had here down the stretch with a lot of the guys that they've been trying to flip. I can't say that, like, they had to almost convince him, from what I understand, to come down here, D. But once it was done, they have felt good about that one. So, like, the chances there. Amari Latimer, and I saw your update. That one's a tough one for me, man, because a couple weeks ago, I think they felt 2-3 weeks ago, maybe closer to 3 weeks ago, they felt really strongly that one was close to happening. But those negotiations, from what I understand, have been tough. And that's what this is now at this stage, the day before signing it. That's what this is, the final negotiation. So let's see if they can get that one over the line. And they've definitely been swinging on these 5-star defensive linemen. As of right now, it's hard to say that it happens, but I'm not discounting a last minute. I don't want to call it move of desperation, but if we get the urge to do some dirty things there at the end, then I'm not counting anything out of the equation.
It's all legal now, so clean things, but certainly aggressive moves. But I would say I'm hearing pretty much the same. I'll alter one thing slightly based on my conversation last night. So this is as of last night. As we all know, this stuff changes pretty quick. I would agree that of the two, Karsten Busch is the one I feel better about in terms of I'm laying down money on one or the other. I think Karsten Busch, I feel pretty confident that Miami will be able to get that one done. But as of yesterday night, what I'm hearing is Miami's going to have a very good shot at Latimer as well. So if you ask me to pick right now, I would say the bigger odds are on Karsten Busch, the linebacker out of Louisville. But I would, right now, if I were to predict Tuesday, 10 a.m., I would say Busch and Latimer both. You're battling Wisconsin for both. They're kind of similar in a way, different positions, but it's like Karsten Busch, a Louisville kid, 6'2", 220, just tremendous length and size, very athletic, plays all over the defense, high verified measurables as well. Was committed to Louisville, his hometown team. Wisconsin got in the mix there. Wisconsin is the biggest competition, but like you mentioned, he came down. It's hard to lose those kids when they come down, especially coming off a win like we had and great weather and everything else. So I think Busch, exactly what Heatherman's looking for with length, athleticism, verified measurables, versatility. He's played a lot of off-ball linebacker. We've seen linebackers where it's like, hey, we'll take a defensive end and make him a linebacker. There's an actual linebacker who has versatility. So I think that one's looking good, and great senior film, like all these guys. Another senior riser with Amari Latimer, 230-pound running back out of Georgia. Again, these are both 4-star players. You're battling Wisconsin for both, which is not a good sign with the way Wisconsin has played lately, but they're both 4-star players and rising players with good senior film. Latimer from Georgia, he had like 2,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, 10-plus yards a carry as a senior. I'm told he had some of the best running back film in the country as a senior. Certainly the highlights I've seen back that up. Basketball player, he can go up and get it, but a big back as well. So I think if you can get these two, you've really improved the length, the athleticism, because Latimer's not a burner, but he's a basketball player. He's very coordinated. He can do different things. Just the overall athletic ability and length and size of your running back and linebacker rooms. Maybe still need a little bit more dynamic running back to add to the mix to complement Pringle in case Pringle were to go down. But otherwise, I think those would be two huge additions to the team.
Yeah, I would say Latimer is 50-50, but they need running back. They really do, and I think they're going to get someone in the portal as well. So that's going to be it's going to be an interesting one to see.
Yeah, and someone's asking about Latimer's brother. So those who are wondering why Wisconsin would be in the mix for a guy like Latimer, his brother plays there. He's a defensive back there. He'll be a senior next year for Wisconsin. So that's why you see Latimer there. And yeah, as far as the big defensive lineman, at one point, I remember on this podcast, I talked about, I think we have a good chance at a blue chip. At that time, I was referring to Nolan Wilson. There was a lot of positive conversations from him as far as potentially flipping from Alabama to Miami, but those are tough flips, and ultimately that one lost a little bit of steam. I'm not expecting either a Bryce Perry Wright or a Tank Jones or a kind of
Miami's been at least I know with Tank Jones, Miami's definitely been in contact with him the last few days. So
yeah, and we'll see. Hopefully something good happens. I know that California job, I can't pronounce the name. Pete, maybe you can do a better job, but Tosh, the defensive coordinator from Oregon, Tupoy has been rumored to potentially take that Cal head coach job. Tank Jones being a defensive player who's recruited in large part by Lupoy. Could that impact it? I don't know. I don't know if that would come to a head before the signing day. I don't know if he's holding his cards close to the vest. The offensive coordinator, Stein, already took the Kentucky job. So you wonder what Lupoy would be waiting for.
Stephen Heath asking about Connor Liu, potentially in the portal center. Obviously, it was committed to Miami years ago. I would keep that one on the radar.
Yeah, I would too. By the way, I did hear, so in terms of the portal stuff, I want to, as we're going through this information, with the portal, something to keep in mind is you have your retention period, right? So the way the calendar worked out, in some ways it's terrible, as we saw with the Lane Kiffin fiasco. In some ways it actually works out pretty good. I think this would be one of them where you have signing day tomorrow, 30-plus players into your class, into your team. So you got to figure that out. That's a big budgetary component. That's a big just roster component. So you know who's there. Then now knowing who's in the recruiting class, you get to roster retention. Who do we need to keep, right? Who are the guys we need to keep? Who we're going to fight for? Who's going to get a raise? Who's going to, like the whole thing. It's a quasi salary cap era. Money's not infinite. Even there was no cap. So you got to figure out who we keep and how we're keeping them. Miami did very well last year. The only one you lost was Isaiah Horton, really. So you hope to kind of focus on that part of it, get that done. Then once you have the retention part done and the class done, now you say, all right, now who do we need in the portal, right? And you're able to do that with a clear mind as you head into January in this very tight, in terms of there's only one portal period, but there's prep time to kind of get ready for it. So that's what I'm seeing with the way it's all lined up, is that first is class, then's retention, then is portal, whether it's a Connor Liu or who else. I'll tell you this. I heard two guys that I heard very good stuff about yesterday. Max Buchanan at guard, the safety, or the freshman from Seminole in Central Florida, and S.J. Alfatuli, who's played a lot of fullback for Miami. He's got to get his snaps together. He was a guard in high school, struggled with snaps since he's been here. That needs to, obviously, if he's going to play center, which is what his body is suited for, he needs to get those snaps right. But I heard good things about both of those players. Some other guys before I hand it back over to you, Pete, that I heard good stuff about. These are guys in the recruiting class: Darian Coleman, Samorian Wingo, the offensive line class in general, the tight end class in general, Keyshawn Stansel, Camden Portis at nickel. Heard he has great character, great senior film. So there's some guys that I'm just hearing about as far as good senior tape and guys that Miami's really excited about just based on what they did as seniors, but they're excited about a lot of guys. So I don't know if there's anything else you got on this class or just the buzz.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's probably we pretty much hearing the same stuff there. I want to bring up this comment from Canes fan Brandon. He says, got to talk about the whiffs the last 2 years. Yeah, man, you've had a lot of them. You're at number 10 class in the country right now. And I think, look, last year's class came in at number 14, obviously has performed at a really high level. So a lot of overachieving in terms of the rankings go there. But yeah, man, you've missed out on a lot of local talent. You've missed out on Derek Cooper. You've missed out on a Ben Hanks. You've missed out on a Calvin Russell. People can say what they want about him now. I still believe in him long term. And still, to me, you're missing out on these. It doesn't look like right now you're going to land one of these 5-star defensive linemen. I like the classes they've brought in, and I really like the body types they've brought in, D. But yeah, they've missed on a lot of guys. And again, so I will keep bringing this up, and you can argue it. And I'm not saying you, but people can argue this one way or another. Miami right now, in terms of team composite talent, which takes into account the portal rankings as well as the high school rankings for these guys who are on the roster out of high school. Miami had the 15th most talent in the country this year. You need to get that into the top 7 to 10. You need to recruit top 7 classes year after year. I love what's going on evaluation wise. I think they're hitting at a very high clip, but you need to land top 5 to 7 classes a year, D. You may not agree with that, but I think it needs to continue to trend that way. I think back-to-back 10-win seasons will help that, because you have something to really, because those first 2 years you're recruiting off of hope, right? And the recruiting classes the first couple of years were higher ranked than these last couple of years, right? So I think now you have a real foundation to build upon. How do they take that next step? Now, this is something I've heard, D, and you tell me if I'm wrong on this. This staff has not been able to use the draft as a recruiting pitch. They have not been able to use the draft as a recruiting pitch. Historically, that stuff, historical draft numbers look great, but in terms of recent history, they haven't. I think after this year, you now have, after Ward goes number 1 last year, Carson Beck going to get picked again. Bain and Mawanoa, hopefully here in the first round. The narrative starts to change a little bit. You haven't had anything. You have not been able to sell that as a real recruiting pitch if you're this staff. You can recruit it. You can say, hey, look what we did at Oregon, but you haven't been able to do it at Miami. I think that starts to change now too. As crazy as it sounds, us as fans think, man, Miami, NFLU, but that hasn't been the case, even though they have put out in recent years. Like, we can talk about the on-field success, but we also need to talk about what's happened in the draft. The top 100 picks have not been there. That makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one thing that will change over time, but you have to prove it over time. This year is going to help. Next year will help, hopefully. You got to kind of stack those years for that to be a better pitch. It gets better every year. But yes,
I'll throw Jason Lopez as a whiff too. I know, again, it may not look like one is now, but that's a miss to me.
Yeah, no, a couple things. So I agree and disagree with something you said. I mean, the total talent composite, the way they calculate that, just stupid. Like, I mean, when you add our portal to it, if you look at like draft numbers, if you look at look at what Nick Saban
do they not use the portal rankings?
The portal, it's just the portal rankings are just a system that's not very accurate at the moment. It's getting better, but the way they do it is just, it's not integrated right. I mean, to tell me we're the 15th most talent in the country, that doesn't jive. Like, when the NFL draft happens, I guarantee you we're going to be higher than 15th in terms of total draft picks. You look at a Nick Saban, his comments that we'd be the most dangerous team in the country because of our talent. That's his words. That doesn't jive with 15th ranked talent composite, where I agree. So I just think that's that I don't really put any stock into. I think that they just are bad at it. What I agree with you, Pete, is, you want to be getting in that top 5, top 7 high school class rank.
Yeah, high school.
Yeah,
for
that
sure.
I agree with. And I think,
but if you get it, if you get there, then you're closer. You're not top 15. You're closer to the top 10 is what I'm saying.
And Mario would agree with that. I mean, they would all agree with that. He came in to get top. He cares about recruiting rankings too, I promise you. So they cared about, now sometimes they're wrong. I mean, Malachi Toney being a 3-star, he's the best freshman in America. But on the whole, I think everybody, if they're being honest, would say we want to be close to that top 5, especially with the defensive tackles, the Tank Jones kind of guys, the Bryce Perry-Wright kind of guys. You saw Justin Scott, what he does as a 5-star, and that talent kind of really start to show over time. So I agree with you on the high school. I think there's a very good class. I think our evaluation has been good, but you want more from a.
I'll say this: Davon Mayfield says I need to get my information. He says Miami is the best young safety in the NFL. The Rams safety. This is a nasty site. Get your information updated. Hey, guess who came to Miami partly because of Camp Kitchens? You remember who had an impact on him? Who he had an impact on? Bryce Fitzgerald. It makes a difference. It makes a difference. That was that he spoke to him before he committed it, and from what I understand, had an impact on his decision. D. So yeah, it does make a difference. We need more of those impact players in the league. Yeah, we really do.
And if Cam Kitchens makes a Pro Bowl, which I think he should, he's playing outstanding. I guarantee you, not only will Miami's social media blow it up, the coaches will send those tweets and those Instagrams to safeties they're recruiting. So they use it. King David, man, appreciate your support. He said, I'll take 5 to 7 3-star guys like Malachi Toney every year. I'll take 30 of them. I'll take as many as you could get. But yeah, definitely appreciate that. No, the evals have been good, but I agree, Pete. Look, there's a reason why recruiting rankings are important and correlate with success. You got to get high school guys. I would say in terms of whiffs, the last 2 years. So let's say what's that, 25 and 26. South Florida is weird, Pete. I want to get your thoughts on this because I've been the biggest South Florida homer since forever. I do think it's down on the whole. And I think guys like Diabell, Calvin Russell, Derek Cooper are very good players. I think they're all have a chance to be really, really good players. Guys that if they were in this class, I'd be happy about it. But, I don't know if the price tag that they command at this time matches their present ability. I think they could be worth it at the end of the day, but I think all those guys are maybe a little more developmental than the usual guys you see at that ranking and price tag. Like Cooper could definitely be that, but there's some development there. Russell, I think there's a lot of development there, but if it hits, it'll be great. Diabell, he's been injured, so you haven't really seen it happen. I like him, but he hasn't played. So I think that's gone a little, like these aren't Jeremiah Smith types where they're sure things. With that, all that said, and I was talking about this with my boy Go Get It on the CanesInSight board yesterday. 4 out of the 10 best players in college football today, as we sit here right now, Pete, I mean, I don't know if anyone would disagree with this, that 4 of the top 10 players in the sport period, Jeremiah Smith, Fernando Mendoza, and then our guys, Malachi Toney and Ruben Bain, they're all Dade County guys. So I would say 4 of the top 10 players in college football consensus. I mean, maybe someone would have thought about Toney because he was a freshman, but now you're seeing what he's done through the year. He's one of the top 10 players in the sport. I'm sorry. So 4 of those top 10 players in Florida, in the whole sport of college football from Dade County. So, we got to do a better job. Bryce Fitzgerald last year too, another one that we got that ended up being really, really good. So we're getting good ones. I think overall the area is not as deep as it used to be. The one that I keep saying I think we're going to regret is Jason Lopez. And for those in the comments, Mario really wanted Jason Lopez. Like we wanted Jason Lopez. I think the problem with Jason Lopez, and Pete, you're the basketball insider. It just felt to me like if you look at the 2-sport recruiting, not the football recruiting. If it was Mario versus Norvell, Lopez would be a Cane. I think the 2-sport approach that FSU took to him sold him better than our 2-sport approach. That's how I have to read it. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a fan of Lopez as a basketball player, and I think he can play and have a role at Florida State. Jay Lucas is a point guard. Jay Lucas is recruiting. He hasn't landed them yet, but the point guards he's recruiting like 4 of the top 5 point guards in the country. He's going to bring in a high level point guard, and you're going to be really like. To play point guard at Miami under Jay Lucas, you got to be fully committed to it. And I don't know that. Again, we saw him on the pictures on the basketball visit and all that, and he would have had a spot on the team. Like they wouldn't have said, hey, he can't even put on a jersey and practice with us. But I think Florida State sold him a more, in his view, realistic way to get on the court as well, which at a certain point he's probably going to have to make the decision for what he wants to focus on. But yeah, I think this will be a loss.
Yeah. And look, if someone's asked to compare him to Vance, obviously, Jason Lopez, Cuban, Vance Spafford, white guy, they're kind of slot receivers. I can see the comp. They're different to me. They're both highly productive. I'll say that. Both of those guys are like, 1,300 plus yard guys in their best season. Vance was injured this year, but they're both very, very productive. I would say the difference is they're both good route runners. I think Vance is faster. Neither guy's really that good with the ball in their hands. Like, I don't think they're like a Malley where you throw them these screens and they make it happen. I think they're more route runners and just receivers. They're not after the catch guys, even though Vance has that 4.3 speed.
My question on Spafford is how he fills out, D, because the injuries have been, and again, we've said it hasn't been like a serious injury from what I understand, but the nagging injuries, which are a sign of just, needing to put some good weight on. And then how does he move once he adds that weight, right? Is it the same explosiveness that we've seen in high school? Some guys just don't have the frame to add the weight. I'm not saying he doesn't, but we'll see what happens when he gets on campus and starts to work himself into that frame.
Yeah, I agree totally. I think if with the difference between Lopez and Spafford will be if you're sending them on a post route or just a go ball, Spafford's just faster. Lopez isn't slow. He's faster than Restrepo, who he made plenty of plays downfield. But I think Spafford, just a different level of speed, just running down the field. They both run good routes. They both are good hands catchers. I think contested catch, Lopez is really, really good, especially for a guy who's not like 6'5", because he is a basketball player and he has really good hands and he's like strong. He has good core strength. So he kills on those contested catches and he can also separate, with Vance being the better down the field player. But if Vance is healthy, they're two of the best receivers in the country, in my opinion. Vance got to get healthy, and then we'll see what happens to Lopez. Maybe he goes in the portal after FSU collapses.
Drago says somebody making a bad decision is not a loss. Sorry, Pete. Listen, whether it's a bad decision in our eyes or not, it doesn't really matter. To me, it's a loss. I don't think every guy has a decision to make. Some Canes fans were saying Jeremiah Smith, not comparing the players at all, but some Canes fans were saying Jeremiah Smith was not making the smart decision going to Ohio State, and it worked out all right for him.
Yeah, no, as far as like whiffs, the real whiffs, if we're talking about this, and I like to be positive, but we've got to be real. I said that the real whiffs have been Jeremiah Smith. I mean, I think if Jeremiah Smith, first of all, I think if Jeremiah Smith came out this year, as opposed to 2 years ago when he came out, 3 years ago, he's a Cane. Like, I think he wanted to be a Cane. We just hadn't shown what we have now shown, right? With the Malachi Toneys, with the Cam Wards, with the success we've had on offense. So I think Jeremiah Smith, if he was a senior this year, he's a Cane all day. Don't even worry about it. He was this close to being a Cane when we were really bad, coming off like Middle Tennessee State and all that. So unfortunately, or I guess that was coming off the TVD year, but that's a whiff that changed college football, because if he doesn't go to Ohio State doesn't win the championship, and Miami's probably the best team in the country this year. I think an Isaac Brown, right?
Massive whiff.
Yeah, given that we took two running backs
Bad
that year.
eval, massive whiff, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, you took two running backs that year. You got to get Isaac Brown. So that would be a big one. Dylan Stewart. Now that's a whiff that you're swinging at a fast pitch, right? I mean, there's a lot of teams trying to get Dylan Stewart, but we worked really hard on that one. Didn't get that done. He's one of the best players in the country.
Ben Hanks.
He's still got to show it. I mean, he hasn't played, so I'm not sure.
He's played. He's playing.
He did? Is he really?
Yeah.
Okay, then maybe I'm wrong. I loved him.
Played the last few games and apparently looked pretty good. So
I loved him out of high school.
Jabari Flowers, same thing, has looked pretty good. I mean, it's hard to classify those as whiffs just yet, but those are misses.
Yeah, and I think
DJ Pickett's that's what we got to put there. Pickett's up there with Jeremiah. Jeremiah's in a league of his own, but to me, Pickett's right underneath it out of all the guys we've missed on.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Vincent Shaver, someone mentioned, different than a Pickett, but as far as like being a linebacker that could probably play here, that's a good one. A lot of the whiffs have just been big battles that we fought that we didn't get. Like Colin Simmons, we fought hard, we didn't get him. Guys like that. But you want some of those too. But I think, Isaac Brown, given the fact that we took two backs that year, Jeremiah Smith, because it just changed college football. Connor Lew, Connor Lew.
Hard for me to call Vernell Brown a whiff, Canes fan Brandon, with the fact that his dad is an alum. Like to me, that was an uphill battle.
Yeah, Connor Lew, though, I would say, Pete, you brought him up as a transfer candidate. He's one of the, he was committed and he went to Auburn, and he's one of the best centers in the country. So that's one. Even though we brought in transfers and we played overall, I think that's one. Yeah, Kyle Muncie, I agree with you. This is a controversial take, I guess, but I agree. CJ Bailey, we took a quarterback that year.
Sure. No, that's
that we could have taken him.
But again, like I think CJ Bailey made the right decision. He wasn't gonna start at Miami.
Yeah, and then we'll have a lot of time. I did a lot of portal work yesterday, Pete. I was watching a ton of film, just trying to get a feel for all these top quarterbacks. I think we got a lot of good options, man. I mean, Levitt, if he's healthy, is really dynamic. I'm a Bailey believer. I think he's a clean fit. Sorsby's going to get a lot of interest from, I don't know who. I think he probably should go pro, but he could be a guy that you look at. Kind of reminds me of a tier, Sorsby. They're from the same part of Texas, I believe, and they just have a similar playing style. Sellers, my big takeaway watching Sellers last year, I went back and watched some of his games, which, by the way, are hard to watch, that offense. But I thought the biggest mistake they made with Sellers is, like, if you get a Sellers, and I think his talent's off the charts, and I like his character too, you got to, like, have a quarterback run element to what he does. You can't just have him drop back and treat him like a pocket passer. Maybe he put South Carolina over a barrel and said, you have to develop me this way. But to me, I'm showing him film of Jalen Hurts, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and saying, look how Jalen Hurts played in high school, in college. That's how you should play. You should be running it just as much as he did.
Yep. So we'll see what happens.
All right, real quick before we get out of here, a shout out to the Miami Hurricane team store, and your boy right here, Dante Allen, his second career posing with the jersey.
Big one tonight.
Yeah, let's the transition. But yeah, promo code INSIGHT20 at Miami Hurricane team store, in person or online at MiamiHTS.com. Use promo code INSIGHT20. Get 20% off your first item for all your holiday shopping. But yeah, Dante Allen and the boys got a big one tonight, Pete. You can do a reaction show at midnight. This is gonna be a late night with that 9 o'clock start.
Potentially. We'll see what happens. I'll say this, man. I was watching Jay Lucas did a press conference yesterday, and it's almost as if he was listening to my comments that we made on the show yesterday. One of the first things he said was he gave Noam Dovrat a big shout out. Gave Salih Altuntaj a big shout out that says what he's doing is not showing up on the box score. And he says over the last 3-4 games, like he really, you could tell, was excited about Salih. Because man, it's you're bringing over these Euros, and the guys from overseas. I'll say it to be more politically correct, right? Because I don't know what's Europe. And
Israel's
what's not.
in the Middle East, so yeah, it's kind of, and Turkey is
Turkey
part of the
but
world.
I get confused because all these countries are in the European soccer tournaments.
Yeah.
So like that's how I think about it. But it's neither here nor there. You're bringing them over and you're basing it on what they're playing against, right? So I think as a coach, sometimes you see these guys, and I'm not going to say they were nervous, but like they're getting adjusted to the speed of the game. And it's like, you're just hoping that like it clicks for them, because you don't want to bring a lemon in. You don't want to bring in a guy who can't give you anything. I think right away with those two guys, and Timothé, who's the most talented of the three of them, he will continue. And he said, look, he's still getting comfortable. But something interesting that he said is, it's on me as a coach to get those guys minutes in games, because that's the only way they're going to develop. And I feel like anytime I say something like this, I always have to say, Coach L, I love you. Our basketball program is where it is because of you.
Statue.
But needs a statue. Coach L didn't always trust young guys or guys who didn't, which for good reason. His teams were very, for the most part, well coached and disciplined teams. But there's no way to see what the guys got unless you actually throw them out there in a game. And this can be true sometimes in football as well. But it's something about the game of basketball, man. If guys aren't getting out there, getting minutes, and they can't get comfortable on the ball, on the ball and with the ball in their hands. And I think Salih has taken a big step. Noam Dovrat hit, like I said, those 2 threes he hit really gives you a different element back there. And tonight's an interesting one. Chris Beard, it's funny because he said he's coached against Chris Beard a ton. Chris Beard's a guy who has a lot of Texas roots. Texas Tech, Texas had had his instance. Man, let me tell you something. It's a lot of Miami facing a lot of coaches who've had some alleged incidents this year in college basketball between Florida and now Ole Miss here. But yeah, man, Chris Beard, heck of a coach. Completely new team. They have one returning player. So it's a similar situation to Miami. They're still trying to find their footing here early in the year. And they had 2 losses, Iowa, and they also lost to Utah. Iowa was a 5-point loss. Utah was a 1-point loss. So kind of similar to Miami, where they've had 2. Miami lost to BYU and Florida, so 2 top 10, top 15 type teams. But they also did beat Memphis by 6 earlier this year. So, yeah, it should be a good matchup here.
Looking forward to it. Remember to tune in to Canes Insight, Pete, brought to you by our boy, Ariz LaPierre. He'll give you all the basketball coverage. So, again, guys, 17 or plus on, like and subscribe. We'll be on. Maybe I might go live after the playoff. Pete might go live after the basketball. You'll see us again pretty soon, and then you'll see us all day tomorrow for the Signing Day show. So, again, appreciate everybody joining us. Go Canes.
Go Canes.